And if they want to play underdog too, it's a free pick included as a new user, as I alluded to. And it's Patrick Mahomes this week at point 0.5 yards.
He'd do that if he wasn't even playing, to be honest with you. So
I love it. So we'll get started. I'll start first, then we'll get it off to Bobby to go through his picks. Again, we'll volley back and forth. So to start off at number one for me is the Texans quarterback, C.J. Stroud, my friend. The higher on the 265 passing yards against the Jaguars, okay? Here's the reason why. We went over it before. Jacksonville against Buffalo was horrific. They keep giving up the third most passing yards per game at 252 passing yards, okay? It just becomes bad news. Bad news for the Jaguars. And not for nothing, but you got to hammer that higher button because also the 34-7 blowout loss against Minnesota with Houston,
they're going to come out on fire.
They're going to come out raging fire. So pump that higher, take C.J. Stroud, and run with it this week. He's becoming a top 3 quarterback in this league. I'll hand it off to you.
I love that pick. I'm going to actually stick with tonight's game. I'm going to go under on Singletary. I alluded to a minute ago. I just have a little faith that this Cowboy team's going to come out tonight at least and have a bit of pride, get the division win, bring their record back up to 2-2. And the only way they're going to do that is by stopping the run. It's been a glaring weakness for them. They've been keying on it all week. I don't see Singletary getting the attempts to get there unless he breaks a big one. I see Dallas with an early lead. I see the Giants forced to throw the ball more than they want to.
Yeah, and Singletary had a great week, and especially against the Cleveland Browns defensive line. Shocking
Which
to me.
Which is kind of why I want everything's added up for Singletary to have a big night, and I just don't think he will.
Yeah, no, I can see it both ways, but I'm not a big Singletary guy. Never been, which is why Buffalo got rid of him anyway. And Colts running back for me, Jonathan Taylor, lower on the 74.5 rushing yards. And here's the reason why. Steelers give up 71 rushing yards per game. And the biggest thing for me is if you're talking about a really good back in this league, he's young, yes, but he'll become a top 5, top 10 back, especially at the end of this year. Bijan Robinson rushed for 69 yards on 18 carries in week 1 against Pittsburgh. So the lower on the 74.5 rushing yards, pump it. Pittsburgh will put an emphasis on stopping the run, and they'll let Anthony Richardson throw balls into the stands, into the field goal posts. This guy sucks as a throwing quarterback.
He's been bad, man. It is. I thought he'd be a pretty good quarterback. I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was going to be similar to what we're seeing in Washington with Daniels. Actually, I'm kind of hoping Daniels turns back into him as a Cowboy fan, but he's been dog shit. I'm going to stay with this game right here. Bijan under 76.5. That Saints defense is for real. They are a physical, aggressive team. They beat the shit out of my Cowboys. They played some good football. They're surprising some teams. I don't think they're a Super Bowl worthy team yet, but they do have a defense that plays with a streak. And they're going to probably be in the mix at the end of it. We'll see if they can upset anybody. But I'm going to say that Bijan is under 76. I think they're going to let Kirk Cousins try to beat him. They're going to be a physical, in-your-face type of defense, and they will stuff out that run.
Yeah, Bijan lower. I would say the same thing. I really think the Saints are going to stop that. So pump that lower. Eagles running back for me. Saquon Barkley's having a hell of a year, right? And I know, I wasn't a fan with him at the Giants. Bob, you weren't either. You could go on and on about, East-West type of running back, a big hit, highlight play, and then, he just kind of goes with the flow, right? But we have to give him respect. I'm giving him higher. I think the higher is at 76.5 rushing yards this week against the Bucs. The Bucs have been everything and bad against the rushing, opponent. 137 rushing yards allowed per game. That could become, coming from the quarterback position as well. But they're going to have to deal with Jalen Hurts, and they're going to have to deal with Saquon Barkley. And I think Saquon, rushes for about 85 to 90 yards. And Jahmyr Gibbs actually had 13 carries for 84 yards in week 3 against the Bucks. So I'm going to pump that higher with Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I love that. And again, he's the type of guy that's the Saints were shutting him down all game, and he just pops one run and you got it. He's there. So he's got that breakaway capability, that speed. Any given time he touches the ball 20 times, he's going to take one. That was his mo. Grind you, and then he just breaks one. I like the over in that. I'm going to stay in the same game, and I'm going to do an anytime touchdown with Kamara. This
Love
guy,
it.
I think he's revamped a little bit after having a quiet year and a half or so. He's been deadly out of the backfield, catching the ball. Again, the Saints are playing some tough smash mouth football with the running game. Carr's been pretty good, better than I expected. They're throwing the ball over the top. They got some good wideouts. Actually, that whole division's been kind of surprising to me. I thought Atlanta would be better. I didn't really expect much from the Saints, and quite honestly, Tampa to me is another team that I think is much improved as far as like just where they're playing. So that division could have been the weakest. They're not. They got a couple real formidable teams in there, with the exception of the Panthers. Although the new Andy Dalton Panthers, I mean, that should look pretty easy to him.
It did.
Maybe Young is just that bad. Okay, they didn't look that bad behind big old Dalton there. I don't know. I will take anytime touchdown Alvin Kamara. I think he's good for 2 actually, but let's give him one.
I love the 2. I agree with you. I think rushing and pass receiving. Moving on, Giants, Malik Neighbors for me, under on 6.5 receptions, and here's why. Between Diggs guarding him and Daniel Jones not being able to throw the football, I don't have faith in Malik Neighbors going off tonight. And I think going off is 7 receptions. I actually think he gets to like 5. And the only reason why is Diggs really hasn't allowed the number 1 wide receivers to go off. I mean, if there's any prominent strength a part of Dallas's defense, it is Diggs. Like, he has been good. And like Zay Flowers had 1 big reception last week, right? But really, when it came down to it, I think they're averaging like 4 receptions with the number 1 wide receiver. So
there's no reason to throw the ball on them. You can just run the fucking thing whenever you want.
Exactly.
So, like one of those. Listen. I agree. And Parsons is the name. I get it, but he's been pretty quiet these last 2 games. And again, when your defense can't torch for 8-9 yards a clip, it's debilitating. So, yeah, I think that's a high number anyway. I think that should be more on 5.5. So,
yeah,
6.5. I don't like that. And I'll give a bonus one for tonight's game. And I mean, I just think CD gets in the end zone tonight again. It's going to be an every other game for him kind of situation. They're going to try to get him the ball early and often. Anytime touchdown. It could be an end around, don't know, but I guarantee you he gets in the end zone tonight.
Talk about the streak, right? What do you feel like you should hone in on the streak this week?
I don't know. I honestly don't. I mean,
because we're starting one. We're gonna start a streak right after this podcast.
Yeah. So
I'm going CD Lamb tonight. Yeah, I think Dak's going to throw the ball. I'm going touchdown.
And I think it's going to cash tonight.
Yeah, I think it will cash too. The touchdown thing is really important to me because if you're doing a streak on underdog and you're doing a touchdown, you better know that the guy's going to score, because if not, you lose out on the yards, you lose out on the receptions. So you got to be smart about who's going to score a touchdown, because you might lose out on free money when it's all said and done with receptions and yards. So be very strategic in that regard, because a lot of times the guys hit the yards, they don't hit the touchdowns.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, you and I have put a few nice streaks together over the past few weeks. I hope our listeners are taking advantage of it. But, this is a good one to start. Thursday Night Football, NFC East.
Let's get it started, right? Thursday Night Football, no other better way. Is it on Amazon tonight? We got the Amazon crew.
I got the Amazon crew tonight going. Like I said, it's a great way to start off the week. Hopefully it brings us right into Saturday, where if we get some time, I'd like to do some college with you this week too, pal.
Yeah, Bob, one thing before we step aside here. How do you feel about Tom Brady's performance in the booth?
All right. Well, I'm always been hot on my boy Tom there. First few games, it was a little rough. Anytime I can take a shot at the legend, I will. I don't think he was very good. However, his first week, second
Yeah,
week, he got better this week. Also, he's done some shit games. All right, he's been in 3 straight Cowboy games. Listen, they were 3 blowouts. The Cleveland game was never in doubt. But Dallas got blown out of the stadium for 7 quarters at home until they made a late comeback against the Ravens. I mean, the Saints game was over early on. The Ravens game was boring as can be. So I don't think he's had a lot to work with. He's going back to get a Bucks game in this week. He's going to be familiar with the crowd. I think, let's give the guy time. I'm never going to count Tom Brady out again. I've learned my lesson many, 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 many times. So I don't think he's been great up to this point, but again, I think it's a little too early to make any decision on that.
yeah. To this point, he's been below average. Like he's just like if you're just watching the game, or if you're not even watching the game, you're just listening to him. It's just he points out the obvious, right? And don't give me obvious. Give me something like pre-snap. Give me something where guys are talking in the huddle, and you got to think of a different way. Audibles. Try to give me something that nobody knows when you're watching a football game. That's your point of being a color guy. Play-by-play
Maybe,
guy can break down all the.
maybe he doesn't know. Maybe Belichick knows. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Oh, that's
I'm just
another
throwing it out there.
discussion for another day.
Hey, Romo
Holy
didn't win
smokes!
shit, but he's pretty good at predicting plays, man.
Yeah, let's
You
open
know.
that can of beer. Holy shit! No, but I do agree that we got to give him time, right? I think he's going to be most comfortable with the Tampa Bay crowd, as you mentioned. But he's done all 3 Cowboy games, right?
Yes, yes.
So you got to give him a little bit of time. Plus, like I said, that running game is making Dak one dimensional, so there's not much you can do. Um,
I mean, in fairness, he really hasn't had the greatest games to call either. I'll give him that. The other thing that could very well happen is Fox gives him $100 million to buy him out of the contract, and he goes and plays quarterback for the Dolphins for a couple weeks.
yeah, I'll take that.
I
I'll,
would
I'll
think.
take that. I said it multiple times on this podcast, Bob. I'm sick of Tua. I'm done with him. I was always done with him. I didn't want them to sign him to the contract. I want them to find a guy organically. And I think right now, Tyler Huntley might be that guy that's promising because he's a multi-dimensional quarterback that can actually run the football and know when to slide. And he can throw a decent ball. I'm not saying he's like the most accurate player on the face of the earth by any means, but he can throw a decent ball, better than Skylar Thompson. And he's also from the Miami area. So he's a Miami born kid, perfect spot for him. Let's hope like the Lamar Jackson effect, comes into play with Baltimore, with Miami,
Right.
because Tyler Huntley wasn't going to start for that team, as you know, Bob. So there was never a
And
shot.
there's something to this. Like on a human level, I don't want to see Tua in playing it again. So I get, it sucks. It happens. I mean, he swore he's coming back, but like, how many major concussions are you going to get? How many are you going to have? I mean, we've
Not only
seen this
that,
early.
not only that, dude. The concussions is one thing. Before the concussions, he was playing like dog shit.
Well, that too, but that's why I said at a human level here, like his play doesn't warrant an extension,
Facts.
and you should look elsewhere. You and I have the same feeling on that. But now it's like, well, how smart are you to continue football? You made a lot of money already. You're a young guy. Don't forget, what did Aikman and Young, they headed out in their early 30s.
Young, yeah.
Different game. I mean, they were like old men by the time they were done. Don't get me down that, how football used to be rabbit hole. I mean, but again, I think Tua really needs to consider, he's a bright guy. He's a good looking guy. You
He's
know
got a
what?
family.
Got a family. We could go maybe replace Brady in the booth. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, something should give there in his head. Like, he's got to. I understand he loves football. I understand he feels like he's a young man. He is, but again, his poor play aside, and let's be honest, it's been pretty poor. Let's maybe reevaluate where we are in life, and maybe it's time that stepping away is the right thing.